everybody, it's me, Margaret, and this is the week that the Holiday Grand Plan kicks off. Now, I've chosen the original plan. I told you all about it in another video, I'll put a link where it'll pop somewhere up in this corner for you to click on if you missed that, if you wanted to participate in it. Now, look at this scary thought. There are only 116 days left until Christmas. Will you be ready? It's a reminder that you don't have to be Christian or celebrate Christmas in order to get great benefit from this plan, but by Christmas you will have a nice organized house and, well, a lot of organized everything for that matter. Now, if you'll notice, this first week is list week, at least it is for the plan I'm following. And that includes a list of gifts to be given, the amount to spend, yada, yada, yada. And that includes the gifts that you're going to be making. That would be like yarn crafts are the first thing that pop into my mind, but any DIY things in general. Now, we're all going to have different lists because we have different things in our lives that affect us. And one of my unorganized things at the moment is my computer. So an organizing task that has been on my list for a really long time is to organize the categories on my blog. These things were a mess, and now I've got them consolidated into just these few. Now, you might look at Yarncraft down here and say, well, Margaret, you need to divide that out in knitting and crochet and all that. Well, I can't, because there are certain types of projects that are actually for multiple yarn crafts. Here's an easy way to find something. Let's say that you are looking for a specific thing, you know I did, like say baby hats. You can't remember the name of them, but you know they're called baby hats. So you just enter it into the search section. And look, there's Knit Baby Hat Scrap Buster right there. Ta-da! Okay, so you could still easily find things by using the search, but if you want to browse, you can go to any of these different categories right here. Now, because so many of us are planning what we're going to craft for the holidays, I thought, why don't we look at some of the oldies but goodies that are on here just to see if there's something that could inspire you. Of course, you're welcome to use exactly what you see here, but I'm thinking how neat it would be to have somebody take one of my ideas and turn it into something bigger and better or different. But here's the most recent, and that's what comes up when you click any of these, is it comes to the most recent post. And I did this thin blue line hat, but why couldn't you use the same technique where you could put a thin stripe for whatever reason? I used this same technique for a scrap buster for numerous things, actually. It looks really good when you just put a bunch of lines throughout there in different colors. Here is the tutorial for how to do that, and this picture does show exactly how it's you make these two tracks and then the chain lies in between there. So that was that one. You know, I recently did the Pokeball hat, although I am kind of seeing the Pokeball game is fading. It's not as popular. People are deciding it's too much trouble. But in case you still have Pokemon fans, that's a great thing. Or, better yet, improve this and take it beyond Pokemon. Use this same type of color blocking. You could even increase this black right here and use some favorite colors. Use some scraps for charity hats, just combining colors that look together. You don't have to put this little camouflage on there. So yeah, think outside the box as you're looking for inspiration. Now, reviews like this do come under the heading of yarn crafts, but when you look to the categories, you'll see that they do have their own section as well for just product reviews if you're looking for that. All right, so there was some help in troubleshooting Magic Loop. Okay, these Knit Baby Hat Scrap Busters, I just love these little guys. And again, this is wonderful for using up your scraps. It is knitted, but you know what? These techniques could also be used on the Addy. This is one row of one color. This is an alternate. One row you just alternate every other color, and then you do one color like that. So you could still get ideas for your projects by looking at some other projects. But these are really fun, and I did these with Magic Loop, but you would do it with whatever method you prefer for small hats. This is the original post for that chain buster technique, and it does come with a tutorial. This was an Addy hat right here. It's a reversible Addy hat. You have it in 2 colors right here, inside out. You stuff one in there, and then you just kind of turn it inside out. You could loom knit this exact hat as well, and of course use your needles to get the same idea. And it's basically just this, a long tube with gathered ends. Now this is the popular one. I've had lots of downloads of this camel stitch slouchy pattern, mainly because it's so easy, and I really like the fact that you combine the 2 yarns. I get so tired of using the same yarn through a whole project, so I love to change colors. I think that's why I like variegated yarn. I don't often like the way it comes out, but I love to work with it because I like the surprise of what color is coming up next. But anyhow, this was a scrap that I had used and then put together with this skein of yarn. I can't remember what this was. I think it's Unforgettable. But there is the tutorial for that, or you can just download that pattern. And again, this doesn't have to be made slouchy. If you are well versed in crochet, you'll know how to size it to make it into a regular beanie. Now, as a charity crafter, I get this question all the time, and I answer it here. I have tried so many different methods. Believe you me, I have read, I have watched YouTube videos on the subject. This is my basic method, and in this video I also talk about the importance of laundering your projects before you donate them, and you especially want to do that before you give it as a gift too, so keep that in mind. This would be a terrific, unique gift to make for someone. This is that silver spun yarn. It actually has silver in it, and it holds heat in so well, and people who have arthritis or something have sworn that this is a very comfortable glove. It actually makes their hands feel better. And I don't know exactly the science behind that, although they do talk about it on the Feel Good Yarn Company's blog, so you might want to check that out. Now, the best thing about this is you can use a touch screen while wearing them. And here is the video where I demonstrate that and talk about that yarn. Love that stuff. If you're looking for a unique yarn, I want to give out another shout out for Bijou Basin Ranch. This is yak yarn. And the best part about this is that it is so light and yet so warm. So you have the warmness of heavy wools, but yet it is extremely light yarn. It is really neat. So that might be something you would be interested in, or something unique. This little singer is not the most high quality invention in the world, but it is a copy of the Addi Professional. And I'll tell you exactly which one to get here if you're going to look for an inexpensive version of that Addi Professional. We haven't gotten to them yet, but there are several patterns using the Addi Professional where I did holiday scarves down here, so that could be gifts for you to consider. So that's something you might want to look at if you want an inexpensive version of the Addi. Quick shout out for a charity. Karen of SSK Yarners, if you watch them on YouTube, I've talked about them several times before, and I've gotten to meet them in person because they live right here in Georgia. Anyhow, Karen is collecting hats for a drive for veterans, and she has the information in this most recent video. I'm going to put the link in the description box below, and it'll probably pop up at the top of the screen as well. And if you could learn a little bit about that, she would welcome any hats that she could collect so she can send to this charity. And I love this idea. Now this entry right here is living proof that I don't have a clue what people are going to like. I made these up because I wanted to use up all my scraps. Even if I had only, say, 20 yards of something, I thought, how could I put this to use besides in a pom-pom? So I made these super bulky scrap hats, and they had become quite a hit. I kept getting message after message. What did you do? How did you do it? Let me see a pattern. Do a tutorial. So I did. Now for most of these hats, I was using up worsted weight scraps, and so I would put 4 together and use a P, or a 12mm hook. with the 4 strands of worsted weight. But then I would alternate it. I would use different weights of yarn, so therefore I would change my hook size or whatever, and I explain all that in this video, how to customize it, in other words. And it was really fun to see how they would work up. You would take this group of yarn and you really wouldn't know what it was going to look like until the end. So that was kind of a fun surprise. And it was also really neat to see that you may have made one hat with 4 strands of yarn, but you ran out of one of the colors. So you replaced it in the second hat with, it'd be like 3 of the same exact colors, but you would put in 1 new color and you would get a completely different looking hat. So it was really fun to do. They work up really fast and they are really, really warm. So these are super for charity hats too. Now here are some fingerless mitts that I did on the Addy. There is a beginner and there is an advanced because of the skills, the Addy skills that you need to do this. So yeah, you could loom knit these, but there's other patterns out there for that, but in case you're interested, that's there. This was my Christmas crafting from 2014. There are several different things in here besides yarn crafting if you're interested in seeing that for inspiration. But I looked back at this blog and it says no Christmas baking at our house this year. The doctor put her foot down about sugar and carbs. So see, I was completely forewarned about diabetes. I just, how irritating. Moving on, crochet pot holder tutorial. This is a favorite among so many different people. This is my favorite pot holder. These are the ones that I use all the time. My mother-in-law made them for me, then I learned how to make them and I shared them with you. The pattern has been around for ages, like, the Stone Ages. So there isn't any, I don't even know what you call it. So I named it the pot holder double thick folds on itself. How's that for a title? Okay, here we go. I get more questions about the Addy Express than I do about anything. So here is the frequently asked questions video right here. But in addition to this, at the top of my blog, you'll see I have 3 pages. The home page, which is where you naturally land when you click on sheepishly.sharing.com. The About page, which is me, and a page dedicated to circular knitting machines, and that has got all kinds of links and everything you could possibly ever think about that I have talked about myself, or I'm sending you to places where you can find out more information. Now we're getting into some real oldies but goodies, and here is a crochet version of the sock yarn hat. And this was before I knew how to knit. And I loved sock yarn, and I loved the sock yarn hats that I saw people doing. And I had to figure out how to make the closest version I possibly could with crochet hook. And so I did it here. Now, because it's such a fine little yarn, you have to do your increases differently than you would a regular hat. And I explained to you all that in this video. There's a written pattern on here too. I probably need to put that into a downloadable format because a lot of people find that they cannot print off this blog. This is just a free WordPress blog. So I probably need to put this in a downloadable format, but this is my explanation of how it's done. And once you understand it, you probably don't need a written pattern. Now, here is a tutorial for getting clean, straight edges on a knitted tube scarf. I used an Addy to do this little thin scarf right here for this example, but of course this would work on any tube scarf. You could actually do it not on a tube scarf, but just a regular flat one as well. Basically, it's a 3-needle bind off, but I do this with a crochet hook, and I found that I had better control over the tension of my stitches. I just thought it was a lot easier, and to this day, if I have to knit a 3-needle bind off, I prefer to do it with a crochet hook like this. So that's what that's all about. And there, of course, is a tutorial to go with it. This is one of my popular videos because people like to share with me what their favorite non-essentials are for yarn craft. And by doing that, y'all have taught me about a lot of knickknacks that I did not even know existed. So this video is close to my heart basically for that reason. But my 3 non-essentials for yarn craft are clover pom-pom makers, a yarn ball winder, and a makeup brush. And you'll have to see why by watching the video. Alright, now this one. As I talked to you in the how to soften acrylic yarn, this goes more into depth about tips for charity donations, but I have to tell you, this was one of my worst videos ever. The editing and all was just horrendous, but the information is so good, and I'm not going to take it down because the information is good, so just suffer through that. I also give you some charity choices here. I probably should update this to things that are more current. Now this is an old video showing the singer that you do not want to buy. Singer has since copied this with even the 4 legs. They've got the same amount of it. That's the one I showed you earlier. And if you're going to buy an inexpensive knitting machine, you buy that one, not this one. Okay, I love this hat. And look how it starts out. These hats just make me laugh. They do. They just make me laugh. I wish I had a little person so I could just watch them with these bouncy little things on the side. But here is a basic pattern on how to do that. I use the Addi, a 3-needle bind off, which is my crochet version of the 3-needle bind off up here. And then you put the palms over here. I also added a crochet border on my Addi made hat, but of course the same principle can be applied to any yarn craft. You are basically making a tube, closing the top, and adding palms on the side. So any yarn craft, loom knit, crochet, needles, whatever you want to do. And here I'm giving you the exact measurements for my child size hat that I was doing here. So if that would help you. Now I did a series of winter holiday scarves, and I started with this Santa scarf, which I absolutely love. Now I did it for the Addi, but I painstakingly worked out all the measurements so that you could do it in crochet or needle knitting or loom knitting or whatever if you wanted to replicate it. But the video is actually for the Addi Machine, but if you need to see how I made the mustache and did all that kind of stuff, that is here. In addition, I have this snowman scarf. This may be my favorite. I just love them all, but this is the same thing. It's just a color block scarf. But I made this button. Now, I've seen carrot buttons since then. I made this out of Fimo clay, or one of those types of clays you bake in the oven. And again, I give you the measurements of every one of the pieces and parts so that you can emulate this with whatever yarn craft you like. And there's also a nutcracker scarf. Now, Missy, who is Raggedy Anna 6 on YouTube, she said, what about a nutcracker scarf? Well, we are a huge ballet family, and I just fell in love with that idea. So this is what I came up with for the nutcracker scarf. And again, here's all your measurements. I think I probably need to make that bigger. But anyway, there's all your measurements, so you'll know exactly what I did to make this, so you could copy it with whatever you want to use. Now, we'll mention that these holiday scarves, I don't think they would make great Christmas gifts because nobody wants to wear a nutcracker, or, well, they may, I don't know, but I'm thinking Santa Claus and nutcracker probably aren't going to be fun to wear in January and February, but the snowman would be great to wear for that. And also the snake scarf. And this is probably the easiest of all the scarves. It's just one big long tube with one skein of yarn. This is a chained tongue right here. Sometimes I just left this out like this, but you of course can, weave your end back in if you want to, which I have done in recent years. I stacked 2 buttons and sewed it on, But Angie Wade, I think that's Angie's YouTube name. She uses safety eyes that have this kind of cat eye looking thing, and you know how real snakes have those slit kind of eyes, so I think they look great. I like it better, actually, what she has done, but this works just fine too. And isn't it funny how they get different personalities? So this, of course, can be worn all year round too. How to make tassels of yarn. Now this is very simple, and I have since learned to secure these a little bit better than I did in this video, simply by wrapping the ends around a little bit more. But this works fine. I still have this scarf to this day, and it has washed pretty well, and everything's okay. So there you go. It has a video tutorial with it. And consider putting tassels on things that you wouldn't necessarily think to put tassels on. Like maybe instead of a palm, put it on a hat. I don't know. Let's try to be creative. Again, inspiration. And share your ideas with me down below. What would you put a tassel on if it wasn't going to be the ends of a gathered scarf? Now as we go down here, we come upon the famous Addi reversible hat. And I talked about that a minute ago up above. The difference in the other one was that it was Fair Isle. This is just basically 2 yards, half and half, approximately 24 inches. You gather the ends and you stuff one inside the other. And you get the cuff if you do it long enough. And if not, you just have a plain reversible hat. And there's a video for that. I also go kind of long-winded in this one because I'm describing the fact that it's not so easy to give an Addi recipe for exact number of rows because of the different types of yarn. And you'll see here how I kind of, this is sort of a recipe, I guess you could say, where this is what worked, 75 rows times 2 for the Big Lots yarn that I had. For Deborah Norville, I got the same size hat, but I only used 55 rows. And I do go into that in this video, so you might want to fast forward through all that part. And here's one of my favorites. This is a pattern by Zoe, who is 24 Karat Crochet on YouTube. And it's a great pattern. These are spirals right here, 2-color spirals. And look what happens when you get down here to the front post, back post. Isn't that cool looking? And of course, I love cuffed hats because it keeps your ears so toasty warm. Now, the pattern is here. You can also get it from Zoe's site. Of course, I think I have, but yeah, here's the Ravelry link for that. And you can go, I would encourage you to go there to see the ones that Zoe has done. But if you continue down here a little bit, you can see that I've used different types of yarn. She's written it for chunky yarn. I've used worsted weight. I think this is Karen Simply Soft, which is a light worsted weight. This is a soft yarn, very thin, and this turned out great. It's one of my favorite hats that I ever made. It's actually donated now, but I really like it. And this reminds me, I had forgotten about this hat, but looking back and seeing this oldie but a goodie, I want to do it again. And last but not least, this is my #1 post on this blog. I do not have a video on this, but I get thousands of hits on this right here. It got on Pinterest and it just goes crazy. The Quick Color Band Preemie Beanie. Now I explain that, remember, preemies come in different weights and sizes, so try varying your yarn weight and hook size to create different hat sizes, and you can. So it's so versatile, and it's very easy and very quick and very fun. So if you are planning to donate hats to a preemie ward or something, here's a great pattern you might want to consider. Don't forget to look through your own Ravelry project page to remind yourself of favorites that you've done in the past. I need to be better at uploading mine. If you're like me, then go look through somebody else's finished projects. Just looking through Ravelry's database is great, but seeing what others chose and loved puts a whole different spin on pattern shopping. I had a good time looking through these old favorite projects and thinking of ways we could update them, or better yet, be inspired to create something totally new. Y'all are really good at this, so shout out your ideas in the comment section below or on social media. Talk to you soon. Bye.